Good morning, grade 10s. This is Napoleon part 2. We looked last time at the different things that Napoleon did, all the changes that he made, specifically to do with the Code Napoleon and the justice system. Now there was some other changes that he made as well. Some of the other changes there specific to the church and the land ownership. Napoleon gained wide support by reaching an agreement with the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church was recognized as the official state church, but its land and power were not restored, however. But he kept them on board, the Roman Catholic Church. The state will have control over the clergy, paying their salaries. So in other words, the clergy became state employees. It was the first time in the world's history that the church and the state were so closely linked, and that the state paid the church officials. Equal opportunities were now given to people of other religions as well. These reforms were welcomed by most sections of the population in France. Middle class was happy with the civil code, and that employment was based on ability and not family. And the peasants were happy because their land claims were recognized. Nobles that fled France were allowed back, but their special privileges were not restored. He also outlawed feudalism. Remember that feudalism now was where there was a landowner, and then he had peasants living on his farm, and those peasants was basically his property. Also certain forms of punishment like branding. That's where you burn somebody, you burn a symbol in their forehead or whatever to show that they are a thief or they are this or that. That was also outlawed. In this way, he spread ideas of freedom and democracy to other parts of Europe. Many of these conquered countries adopted new constitutions that set them on the path to democracy. Right. Ideas also spread across the globe. The one that we are quickly going to look at, the one place is Haiti. Now, Haiti is in the Caribbean islands, which is just off the east coast of America. You all know the west coast, Jamaica, and all Saint Dominique, all those different islands. And one of those islands used to be called Saint Dominique, but today it's called Haiti. Remember, Haiti had a very bad earthquake a couple of years back where about 200,000 or 300,000 people died. Now, the influence of the French Revolution started to reach the French colonies, and Haiti was one of those colonies. People were inspired by the idea of liberty, which gave them hope for the future. And this then was one of the examples that we can use, is the example of Saint Dominique, or then Haiti. It was France's richest colony in the Caribbean, and the wealth came from sugar cane plantations, which of course used slave labor. We know that sugar cane was very, very popular at that time in the Caribbean, and it was mostly slaves from Africa that were working the sugar cane, but the owners were all, or a lot of them were from France. The African slaves made up about 87% of the population of Haiti. The rest of the population were white settlers from France and free blacks, as they were called. They used to be slaves, but they got their freedom whichever way. They either bought their freedom or they were set free by their owners, if that happened. The French Revolution created a lot of tension in Saint Dominique. First, the white slave owners were worried that this would mean the end of slavery, and they wanted independence from France to keep the power in the hands of the slave owners. That was their plan. Other French settlers hoped that the revolution would give them the same power and privileges as the wealthy planters. So a brief civil war broke out between the two white groups, and the planters were in the end defeated. The planters were the wealthier of the two groups. Now, because there was now this little civil war, very brief civil war between the two white groups, the slaves then saw this division and unrest as a chance to gain their freedom. But that we will do in the next video. Thanks, grade 10s. Have a good day.